When we run production, our goal is to make records that match the test pressing and that don't have any extra issues that were not approved on the test pressing. All test pressings will have a small amount of noise that's understandable and expected. We quantify that amount of noise and record it on test pressing sheets, and we also have them by our side when we run production. If a noise or issue arises that is not included in the test, we need to have a discussion and make a decision whether we can continue on or if we need to come up with more stampers to complete the job.
A water spot is a small, round, cloudy mark that ticks by in the audio. The amount of times it ticks depends on the diameter of the spot. The larger the diameter of the spot, the more grooves it will lay across. Here I have a water spot that ticks by around 4 times. Let's see what this sounds like.
Dear old daddy, rest his soul. With my mom, heavy load. He tries very hard to fill his shoe.
Water spots are something that comes on a stamper and they tend to wipe off. So finding a water spot and asking the press operator to try to clean it off is the correct course of action. Stretching is when a mold causes a stamper to distort out of shape just slightly. This will cause the tone arm to shift to the side abruptly and then back into position. The rest of the revolution should track correctly. I have a record here that has some stretching going on. Let's see what it looks like. If you're limited on replacement molds, a small amount of stretching can be passable. We just have to watch it to make sure that it doesn't get too severe.
When we're running production records, our goal is to make records that match the test pressing that the customer has approved. All records, including test pressings, will have a small amount of crackle and noise on them. When we run test pressings, we assess these and write down how much noise is on this for our records. When we run production, we have our test pressing write-ups at our side to refer to also, to make sure that we do not add any issues that are not on the test. If an issue develops on a record that is not on the test, we then have to have a discussion amongst ourselves and decide if this issue is severe or minor enough to pass in order to meet the customer's deadline.
Pockmarks are a form of non-fill that shows up in the form of small craters. These craters drift around in location from record to record. They sort of look like divots and can be mistaken for divots. Pockmarks are mysterious and difficult to solve. Pockmarks may not sound at all, or they may be very noisy. Here I have an example of a record that has some pockmarks that are sounding. Let's see what they sound like. And it's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we really did try to make it something inside. This can be addressed with heating and cooling adjustments, but again, this is a tricky one. Sometimes small bumps will appear on the top of the record. These are called blisters. Sometimes these are mistaken for divots, but unlike a divot, these drift around in location and vary from record to record. These blisters are thought to be caused by off-gassing in the PVC. When blisters or heat bumps sound in the audio, they sound in the low end in the form of a thud or a thump. Here we have an example of a record that's whooshing or swishing. Okay, what I've called a lead-in line is a mysterious mark that forms by the coining near the beginning of a record. It's a short line that's usually between 1/4 and 1/2 inch long. It's cloudy looking, and it may or may not sound. Here I have an example that sounds by 2 times. Let's see what it sounds like. And it's over that quick. This is something that is somewhat mysterious to us, but luckily it's not that severe. Once in a blue moon, there will be a flaw in a stamper similar to a plating pop that's so severe that we call it a pinhole. You can actually hold the stamper up to the light and see light through a tiny hole that will push vinyl up through it and cause a terrible pop. Sometimes the needle will skip. This one doesn't skip, but it sounds like a terrible plating pop. That was our pinhole. That you can feel with your finger if you run it across the surface of the record. You can feel a pinhole sticking up. Sibilance is a form of distortion that occurs when formatting audio for vinyl. It affects S sounds in vocals quite a bit. Here I have an example of some audio where the S sounds are getting somewhat distorted.
So when Professor Harlow Shapley estimated in his book of Stars and Men that there are some 100 million suns that have companion satellites analogous to our Earth, my mind was instantly piqued with you.
S sounds on vintage audio are tough to get onto vinyl clearly. Air pockets in records are not very common. When we do see them, it's usually in a record where colors are being mixed in the mold as it's being pressed. Occasionally air bubbles can be seen, and if they're on the surface of the record, they may sound, but they're uncommon and rare and are not usually problematic. Occasionally sounds come in on a test pressing that are a mystery to us. It's not something that we can attribute to the pressing process or anything we're familiar with. In this case, we'll usually consult the internet and see if this audio exists in some other form that we can check.
Making perfect records is very expensive and time-consuming. In order to meet customer deadlines, this is impractical in most cases. Perfection in this case is truly the enemy of the good.